Make sure we got everything squared away here. You got anything going on this weekend?
Hopefully boating. It's supposed to be in the 90s, and we're a few short weeks away from the leaves falling.
It's gonna be gone.
Yeah.
It's gonna be gone soon.
Yeah, so hopefully getting on the water. That's the plan anyways.
It's gonna be a good weekend for it, and I don't think it's supposed to rain. Do you?
There's a chance Sunday, but you know how that goes. Summertime, August, humidity, they pop up and whatnot. But hopefully we'll get out there.
Yeah, because you got to put yours away, right? Your boat?
Yeah, I store it. Yeah, I store it every year. Yep. I have to take it up north and put it away for the wintertime.
Mm.
They winterize it and everything and whatnot. But, yeah, so a couple weekends left and it'll be snowing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then we'll be bitching because it's cold.
Because it's cold, yeah. Exactly. Northern Illinois.
Well, thanks for coming on. Introduce yourself to the. I've known you your whole life.
Yeah.
Dane Van Oosten. Yeah, introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, as you said, Dane Van Oosten grew up in Polo, Illinois, northwestern Illinois, booming metropolis, 2,200 people. Had the quintessential country kid upbringing, hunting, fishing, riding dirt bikes and whatnot, and graduated from Polo High School, did 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserve, 2 years active duty as in year-long deployments, both to Iraq. After I did that, I got out and was an iron worker for 4 years, then went to Illinois Department of Corrections as a correctional officer, did that for almost 10, I think 11 to 19, and I'm currently a highway maintainer with the Illinois Department of Transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I'm at right now. Brief history.
Yeah, well, that's obviously good overview. When we talked about this last time, why the Marine Corps?
Well, as you know, our whole family basically has all been in some type of service, whether it be, Marine Corps, Army, Navy. So, it was just always kind of something that I knew I was going to do. You and I both grew up playing with G.I. Joes and, lighting shit on fire and blowing shit up and whatnot for fun as kids. So, at a very early age, it was, I'm going to do this, So,
mm-hmm.
Of course, Dad being in the Marine Corps was a huge influence. And then we had several uncles, as I said. And, it was just kind of, I don't want to say bred into us, but as a very early age, I never wanted to do like any other branch. It was just always going to be the Marine Corps, and basically because Dad was, and then of course as you were 4 years older than me in school, and watching.
I still am 4 years.
Yes,
older.
you are. Yeah, I haven't taught you yet. I'm working on it. But,
yeah.
So it was just kind of always something I knew I was going to do.
Was there any? I felt the same way. Obviously, there just from the earliest age, like no questions asked. That's what I'm going to do. I can never remember any reluctancy. Did you ever have any reluctancy?
The only thing I ever was reluctant about was either active duty or reserves. And I ended up going reserves because I had this grandiose plan that I was going to go get a degree in forestry, was what I wanted to do. And that was my only hang up was, do I go active duty or do I go reserves? And I ended up going reserves.
Because we had like explain the difference for some people where, what is the major difference or what were the pros and cons? You said you were trying to go to school, right? So kind of explain the differences. What are the pros and cons of active versus reserve?
Well, the difference being with the reserves, you basically train in 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. So 1 weekend a month, you go to the HCC or the training center, and then you train. I was in the infantry, so we did all the infantry stuff, the running and gunning. You train for a weekend, and then you go home. You have a regular life outside of the reserves. The
mm-hmm.
2 weeks in the summer, you do what they call as your annual training. So one time during the year, you go for 2 weeks, and that's usually a more extensive type of training. They'll take you to a different country or whatever, or maybe just like Fort Atterbury, Indiana, and you stay there for 2 weeks and do all your mission training and whatnot.
You guys, did you do one to Atterbury?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you? I didn't know that you had been there.
Yeah. We did a 2 week. I only went to like one AT, the annual training, because of deployments. And if you were in school, there were waivers and whatnot, but the deployments kind of got in the way of the annual training. So
how soon after you enlisted? What year did you enlist?
2003.
Yeah, so pre-September 11th, post-September 11th.
Post, yeah.
Post-September
Yeah.
11th. What was that like?
Well,
honestly.
Well, again, going back to always knew that was something I was going to do, and I wanted to go in the infantry, best and worst job in the Marine Corps, because I wanted to do all the cool shit, you know. And you had already went, and you were in the invasion, so that was in March of 03, if I'm, you know. So it was always something I was going to do.
That's got to be different, though, enlisting when there is an active war going on, right?
Yeah, and my thought process was I was lucky, you know, because that's what you, or at least that's what I enlisted for. Even though I was in the reserves and was going to go to school, I wanted to deploy. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a peacetime, you know, the 1 weekend a month, and that's all we do. Like I think most people, when they join the Marine Corps, and especially in the infantry, you want to go use what you've been training for. So I felt lucky that there was an active, you know, conflict going on when I wanted to serve my country, and I wanted to do it all the way.
Do you realize sometimes how, because I've obviously said the same exact thing, do you realize how absurd that sounds? Right?
Yeah,
sometimes.
if you think about it, like, yeah, because
you want to go do what?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Why do you think, other than just being like the quintessential young American male, why do you think? What do you think the deeper part of that was? Is it something that you had to prove? Is it like a box that you had to check? Like, why did you want to go when you almost certainly knew that at some point you would be engaged in conflict?
Yeah, I think just, I don't know. I always thrived on competition and high intensity stuff. You know, like, I mean, as like sports, for instance, in high school, you know, I always was extremely competitive and whatnot, and that kind of carried over into the Marine Corps. But when I joined and wanted to be in the infantry, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go fight. I mean, when you join the military, I think most people join because they want to go fight. You know, so having that opportunity. And like I said, when we grew up, I mean, hearing stories about Dad being in Vietnam and whatnot, I mean, watching the war movies and whatnot, it was always like, that's fucking awesome. You know, like, I want to do it. So, I mean, that's what I joined for. That's what I wanted to go do.
I mean, I think it's very, very interesting because you go through, like you said, the movies, all of the stories. It's, you know, it's something that, you know, it's all the people that we looked up to, a lot of family influence, and I don't know if it's an age thing or it's a mental, because our brains haven't been developed yet because we're, 18 years old. You don't think, it's like the bad stuff never enters, like, oh, this could go not my way.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
That movie's almost never playing in your head. Or if it is, it's some glorified, getting smoked in a hail of gunfire or whatever. It's never the in-between stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are guys that, that go, and I can remember getting weighed to get on the plane to make sure we weren't overweight so the plane could get off the ground, and there were guys like shitting their pants. Like, I don't want to go. This isn't what I signed up for. And I think you get that a lot in the reserves. Like, people sign up to go to school because you get your education paid for. You know what I mean?
Right.
All I got to do is this 1 weekend a month, and it's only hard for a weekend. And then, so there were people that were like, I don't want to do this, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this is what we signed up for, So
yeah, this scenario never crossed your mind.
Yeah, there's definitely that other side where I was like, let's do it, and then other people were scared shitless.
I don't know if I don't know if I ever witnessed that. Everybody kind of handles that fear in a different way. And you're probably right. Like the reserves, and I'm not shitting on reserves, right? But it does kind of attract the kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out where, but make no mistake. I mean, there were people that were full time, especially like there was this one dude, cause for us, they stop lost us, right? And
Yeah,
stop
so you
loss
couldn't get
is
out,
like,
yeah.
hey, you've got 3 or 4 months left in the Marine Corps. Guess what? Never
You're
mind,
staying,
you're
yeah,
staying,
yeah.
and I could see people getting, there was one guy had one of those like countdown clocks, down to like the millisecond that he had put in the front of his barracks room. And he was very vocal, about how short he was, to getting out of the Marine Corps. And then September 11th happened and they stop lost everybody. And that guy was upset,
absolutely.
and I was like, you better stop that clock. That clock just got stopped for you,
Yeah.
But, I was always kind of interested to see how prominent, because if I signed up for school, never having thought that I might be on a two-way range, as we like to say at some point, like that would probably be hard to swallow.
Yeah. And to your point, going back to the differences, it's also extremely difficult to turn it on and turn it off, as you would say.
100%.
Like, you got to go in and be motivated for a weekend and then go back to, let's say you work at stocking shelves at Home Depot or something.
Right.
That's extremely difficult. As to I remember telling you about when I got out of the infantry training battalion, we got to go home. Reservists were getting on a bus to fly home. The active duty guys were getting on a bus to go a mile down the road,
Sure,
and get the shit kicked out of them, and so they were not happy with us, So I mean, to each their own. The turning it on and turning it off is also extremely difficult.
That was. I mean, I don't know. That's why I didn't go to the reserves after. Now I thought about it. I did my 11 and change, just shy of 12, and I thought about it. I was like, man, I got. I'm kind of over the hump, as they say. And, but once I was done. And the second closest factor to that decision was I don't think I can turn it on and off. It's either all the way on or it's all the way off, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. Well, did you ever regret your reserve time?
Yeah, I regretted not going active duty, especially after the first deployment. I kind of felt like I needed to do more, But then, as with having to turn it on, turn it off, I got comfortable where I was at, and I kind of let the what ifs kind of control my decision. So I stayed in the reserves, but I feel like I could have. I think I would have done more outside of the infantry if I would have went active duty. Yeah. So sometimes, I mean, there's
definitely kind of more. There's more opportunities, and especially if you go to some of those other, call it advanced training or advanced skills or what have you. I always used to say, like, if I was king for a day, and once again, this is not me shitting on the reserves whatsoever, because everyone has a job, and thank God we have them, I was like, man, if I was king for a day, I would make the rule that you have to do to set you up for success.
Yeah.
You have to do 4 years active duty, and then you can go reserves if you want. And that would probably alleviate a lot of those guys that are like, oh shit, we're actually going to go do this.
Yeah.
And moreover, I think people think the infantry is simple because you don't, it's not like you have to have a, advanced degree to get into the infantry. The infantry is extremely difficult, not only physically, but mentally if you want to be good at it.
Right.
And it's like it's hard to be good at it when you do it all the time, let alone when you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because we do it all, full spectrum, So, I mean, you have your advanced, like recon and whatnot. I mean, we do variations of that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? We're just not as highly trained in the specifics. So I think that's one of the things that makes the infantry so challenging is that you do everything. You do everything that the SF guys do, just kind of on a broader spectrum, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, with less.
With less, yeah.
Right,
but you don't have to be a brain surgeon to get in. You just have to be able to do what you're told. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, to your point, yeah, that's what makes it really hard.
Well, take me all the way back. Did you go right after high school? Because keep in mind, I was gone, right?
Yeah.
So
So I left 10 days after graduation for boot camp. Yeah, so no senior summer for me or anything like that.
Which is probably for the better.
Yeah, exactly. Because but 10 days after went to San Diego for boot camp.
Did you feel like you had a good idea or conception? Could you a lot of coffee? Can you conceptualize what you were getting into, or were you kind of surprised when you got there?
No, I mean, having, followed our uncles and dad and hearing the stories and reading your letters and whatnot, I kind of had a pretty good idea as to what was going to transpire. It's the physical thing I was not worried about because I was in sports and whatnot. I was in really good shape. But the mental part was where the repetitiveness is, I think, what I wasn't exactly expecting. But I think I had a pretty good idea of what to expect. It was more mentally challenging than I had thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and by design. I love that. I love seeing it. It pops up on my Instagram feed constantly where it's like those boot camp, the paper that they give you where it's got the little, Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, the Marine Corps symbol on the top. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're only allowed. And it's like a parent open it up and it just says, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Write your first letter like, oh, fuck.
But that's exactly what happens. I mean, from the minute you get on the bus.
Did you cry?
No.
You never cried?
No.
I think you're lying.
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. I did like the second night. It might have been the first night. I was like, I don't
remember crying. I don't remember crying.
I did.
I remember when you get on the bus and they make you put your head between your knees and then they drive you in circles around the airport because the depot's right outside the airport in San Diego.
Yeah, a little misdirection there.
So, I mean, you're like, oh, fuck, what the hell? And then you get on the footprints and then it's on from there. You don't sleep for the first 36 hours. And
right.
One of the most the biggest mind fuck I thought was where, like I said, it's right by the airport. So I remember we're doing flutter kicks where you lay on your back and you keep your feet 6 inches off the ground and you're kicking them. And it was a company PT exercise, and the company gunny was running it. He was on the platform in the middle of all of us.
Sure.
And the airplanes are going off, like they're taking off. And you're thinking,
I remember, yeah.
Well, I could be on that. I could be on that. And then the thing they were having us do, we had to out yell the airplane.
Yep, blow it out of the sky.
Yeah, so we're screaming at the airplanes, and the whole time you're thinking, as you're covered in fucking sand, kicking and what the fuck? What am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah. So seeing the airplanes every day, every 30 seconds taking off, you're like, I could be on a fucking vacation or something.
Yeah. I can remember. I got the senior drill instructor, which is supposed to be like the Papa Bear. I almost don't remember the yellow footprints. Like, I know that's almost sacrilegious to say, but it didn't really, it all happened so fast, right? And there's so much commotion and they're yelling and screaming and which everyone kind of knows. You're expecting it, but it's almost like nothing prepared. You can watch every movie on the planet, you know what I mean? But nothing really kind of, prepares you for that, that initial get off the bus, right?
Yeah.
And I got my senior at the time, which I didn't even know what a senior was. He put his hands on me within seconds and it was so bizarre. We were, nut to butt, as we like to say, where your head is almost touching the back of the guy in front of you. And I don't even remember where we were at. I just know it was someplace on the depot because you can't barely see anything. You're just staring at the back of the person in front of you's head. And to this day, I don't know how this happened or what happened, but someone hit me in the back of the head and it knocked my cover, my hat, off of me. Mm-hmm. And I instantly turned around to fight or address or whatever, like, what in the fuck, and before I could execute any of that, this big arm came in and grabbed me by the collar. He was a big, jacked black dude, and he was dark green Marine, as we like to say. Mm. And he was like, "Oh, good, we got one. Come here, you undisciplined rat." And he drug me into the pit, into that sand pit, and just started to smoke me. I mean, this is like minute one, day one, and I'm like, oh fuck, we're off to a good start,
Yeah, exactly.
So that first night after having, a stellar first day, I was laying there in the top bunk and I was like, a little bit of sniffles came on. I was like, uh-oh, this might suck. Maybe I wasn't as prepared for this as I thought, and obviously that dissipated very quickly.
Yeah.
But, because you didn't have time to dwell on it or whatever. But.
Yeah. I think the first week seems like a year and then bam, it's over.
Right.
Like it flies after that. There's minuscule things that I can remember, like bits and pieces, but as a whole, like I think you think 13 weeks is never going to end. And then you're standing on the parade deck at graduation.
Right.
Like, so, I mean, best and worst experience ever. It sucks so bad, but you learn so much about yourself.
I have such vivid memories, and then there's some of it where it's like it doesn't even seem like it was real. And they're always the hilarious, stories. Like what's one of the best boot camp stories that like the pinnacle of, and I know there's literally endless amounts, the amount of, shenanigans that go on.
Yeah, because they're fucking with you, and they're doing it to their entertainment too.
1,000%.
They go in their duty hut or the office where they go stay, and they're laughing their asses off.
Yeah, and did you ever pick up on the fact that when they would bust up laughing, or when they would quote unquote lose their bearing, when they would take their cover,
their smoky over their face. They take their hat and put it over their face because they're trying to not to laugh.
Right?
You're talking about one of the stories, and it was funny. We had one guy that was hurt from day one all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you always have one of those guys.
Was he malingering, or was he like legitimately injured?
I think probably a little of both.
Okay.
But I remember we were standing in front of our racks, in front of the beds, lined up, and we were getting our asses chewed for something, and we had a drill instructor that barely spoke any English, which made it really hard to do anything that he told you to do. And of course, they're talking so fast and they change their voice, But
they use that frog voice.
Yeah, he was running up and down and screaming and yelling, and he had a flashlight, or a moonbeam, as they called it, and he launched it at one of the center pillars in the squad bay, and one of the batteries. I think they're either C's or D's. I think they were C's. They're fairly good size.
It's a decent, right.
We're all standing there in our underwear, and that battery shot out and hit old boy in the nuts. And he's on crutches already. And he made the most ungodly sound, and fell over. And of course, we were all like, trying not to laugh. Yeah. But it just dropped him, and I can remember him pulling his hat over his face, because he was trying not to laugh. It had to be that guy,
Of course it was. Yeah. He couldn't do it on purpose if he tried.
Right, exactly.
And then of course I'm sure they drug him away, for a Mountain Dew and a phone call. Don't tell on me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I had a friend that was I had several friends that were drill instructors, and I can remember asking him when I was stationed in Quantico, Virginia. We were in the gym. I was an instructor at sniper school, and he was over at Sawick, which was small arms weapons and instruct. It was kind of like if there was a Marine Corps equivalent to like the Special Forces 18 Bravo, where they're like weapons experts. That's kind of the closest thing. Like all war, foreign weapons, and things of that nature. And it was a cool course. But anyways, we're in the gym, and he had at least a couple tours on the drill field, and it was coming to that point in my career where recruiter or drill instructor, and I kind of didn't want to do either, and if I had to choose one, I was gonna be a drill instructor. That's kind of the pinnacle, right? Or we look at it as the pinnacle, and I asked him, I said, what do you think about me going? And he was like, I don't recommend it. And I said, why do you say that? And he's like, man, he goes, it just anymore, it's either a career maker or a career breaker.
Sure.
And he goes, it's just a flip of a coin. He's like, why subject yourself? He goes, it just takes one kid. It just takes one recruit and to allocate or whatever, to basically, kind of get you in trouble, if you will. And he goes, now, with that being said, you could borderline get away, and this is his words, not mine. He goes, you could borderline get away with a murder with a Coke and a phone call home,
Right.
which made me fucking die laughing.
Yeah.
He goes, but, he goes, just weigh that heavily. And I did. And then I ended up not having to do either. But anyways, yeah, it's, no shortage of absolute tomfoolery for 13 weeks straight,
Yeah.
And did you ever run into any of your drill instructors afterwards?
Nope.
No shit.
Never saw.
I had, believe it or not, I had 3 in 1st Battalion, 5th Marines for the invasion.
Oh, okay.
It was super cool
Cool but weird.
Yeah,
How do you dress them as normal people now?
Oh, sure, it's all changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you graduate, right? It's all, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't the first time I ran into one, and he was our heavy, right? And for the listeners, the heavy he's kind of the meanest one out of all of them, right? Mm. And I was with 1st Battalion, 5th Marines Scout Sniper Platoon, and we got called out to Yuma, Arizona to help Special Operations qualify this Helo squadron. And he was there, and I was just dumping my kit in the hangar, literally just got off the bird, dumping my kit in the hangar, and then going to go find out who is in charge and where we need to be and what we need to do. Because I was a team leader at the time. And I was bent over digging in my ruck, and I heard the voice, Van Oosten. And I instantly knew who it was. Instantly. And it had been a minute. You know what I mean? This wasn't 6 months later. I mean, This was, 4 years, maybe even longer. And I turned around, and there he was. And he was a little thicker because, of course, they're rail thin when they're running 24/7.
Right.
But there he was. And of course, I had a little bit of, oh, fuck.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But it was big hugs and this and that and catching up. And, yeah, so it was cool to run into, quite a few of them. There was only one that I didn't ever run into afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. No, I never saw any of mine ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the reserves, you don't get that you don't cover as much ground, so to speak, to run into those guys.
Sure.
But
yeah.
So it was 13 weeks of hell, and then it was over, and it was on to infantry training from there.
How long after you graduated and graduated infantry training, when you went through, how long was it? Was it 8 weeks?
Yeah, 8 weeks.
Yeah, 8 weeks. It's 15 now, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 15. But mine was 8 weeks too. So how long after the School of Infantry did you know you were going to go on your first deployment? Because the war's been going on for a minute at this point.
Yeah. I checked in to my unit, and then the first drill, the first weekend we had to go, we got our activation orders. So, I mean, right when I checked in, basically.
How many were people surprised? Were people shocked?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They were shocked. Like I said, you could tell who was wanting to go and who wasn't wanting to go.
No shit.
Yeah, and I was I was excited. Like I said, that's what I wanted to do. So there wasn't just I never had to go through a year or two of just showing up on the weekends we got mobilized right away.
Did the guys, and I think I know the answer to this, did the guys that were, visibly or vocally kind of did they get shit on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of just browbeat that out of them,
Yeah.
You can feel that way, but shut the fuck up.
Yeah, there was a dude, and going back to when we were getting weighed to get for the plane, there was a dude that had a no shit teddy bear. I mean, not fucking joking.
Like a stuffed animal?
A stuffed animal.
Bro.
And I was giving him so much shit. He was like, fuck you, Van Oosten. You're one of those dudes that fucking wants to fucking go over there and fucking die. And I was like, you're fucking right, I do. He was specifically the guy that I was talking about was like, I didn't sign up for this. I wanted to go. And he ended up not going. He went on recruiter's assistance and bailed. He got out somehow. He never.
Oh, man. And probably for the better.
Yeah, exactly. Because, he wouldn't have been any help anyways. But yeah, so there were definitely two different sides that wanted to go and some didn't,
Yeah, because everybody's afraid.
Yeah,
100% everyone's afraid. Anybody that says they're not is
a liar.
Is completely full of shit.
Yeah, and you can when you're training in boot camp, they teach you to you're going to be scared, but you have to channelize that fear and use it as energy, so to speak, you know? So, I mean, you just have to, they train you to react the right way, you know, not go into the black, as they say.
Right. I saw this, post or meme the other day that struck a chord where, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, and I wish I could remember who said it. But it was basically like the only people that have been through it realize that the feeling of courage and the feeling of fear are identical. Mm-hmm. They're identical. It just that is the fork in the road.
Right.
If you're afraid and it stalls you in the door, that's the road to cowardice, so to speak. And bravery is just living with that fear or acting through that fear.
Right.
But it's the same feeling.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
And that's what it's. How many times did you get that question? Like, oh, were you afraid? Yeah, well, of course. You know, like it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's just running like a screensaver in the background.
Right.
Not to sound cliche, but the training takes over, right?
Yeah.
So what was the workup like? How long did you have? So they gave you that, you're going.
Mm-hmm.
What was the workup like prior to actually getting boots on the ground?
I think it was 3. I think we did 3 months. I think we did 3 months for the workup, and it was all CQB training, like
close quarters.
Close quarters, yep.
Yeah,
so
close quarters combat.
Learning how to clear rooms. I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. Where you run and then fall over and then get up and run and fall over again, and for hundreds of yards. And
right.
I mean, it was again going through all the training that you learned in infantry training school and whatnot.
Now, are you a Lance Corporal at this point? What rank are you?
Yeah, I was a Lance Corporal at this point, yeah.
Did you feel like, did they tell you when you got your orders where you were going and what exactly you'd be doing?
They told us that we were going to basically kind of win the hearts and minds, but at the same time, because mind you, there are no uniformed enemy.
Not at that point,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, like even probably there were some when you were in the invasion, but I think we talked about it once. They were shedding their uniforms basically and kind of running away. So I mean, but at this point, there are no uniformed enemy. So it was all about how you're going to have to identify the enemy in the populace, because they're hiding amongst regular people there. So it was going to be a lot of satellite patrol, which is you don't operate out of a big base. There are a lot of little bases, so you cover more ground. Basically keeping a footprint and, like I said, winning the hearts and minds, making the people feel good that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what they told us we were going to have to do. At the same time, rid the place of insurgents. That was a big thing.
Yeah, it's the uniform thing that went away real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I can only remember a handful of times, and it was undoubtedly because of my optic on my sniper rifle, where you'd be scanning. Like at one point, I scanned across the Tigris when we were at Saddam's palace. Excuse me, and I no shit saw full uniform, green on green, the black beret, all of it. Like, and he was loading weapons into the trunk of a car out of a building. And I can remember thinking, like, holy shit, there's one of them still. Because you saw the uniforms laying all over the place. Mm-hmm. They couldn't get out of their uniforms fast enough, or you'd see them, you'd see the bodies that were still in their uniforms or whatever. But like running around, running and gunning in uniform, you barely saw that at all. At least I didn't. Most of the people that were fighting in the invasion, maybe they were just more comfortable in civilian clothes. Right.
Yeah, and you guys, I mean, like lightning, across the country for the invasion.
Mm-hmm.
So we were more of the cleanup crew. And this is 2004 at this point, like March 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So we were more like, it's been a year since the invasion. So we were more like the cleanup crew where we're hunting these guys out,
Which is infinitely harder if you ask me.
Yeah.
It's infinitely harder.
Because your rules of engagement they're changing all the time, so it's not like, that guy's got a cell phone, can I shoot him? You know, like he's got to have a weapon, or like for us, I'll jump a little bit, but like the second deployment was, you can't engage unless you're engaged first. You know, that wasn't the case then.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were operating out of basically people's houses and trying to root out the guys that were still, because at this point they're using IEDs. They're not really looking to get in a gunfight with Marines because they know they're going to get killed. So I mean, they're using a lot of IED tactics and or drop a couple mortars or pop off a few rounds and then take off. So it was extremely difficult to find out who the bad guys are.
Yeah, we didn't have to deal with that at all in the invasion, and like you said, it was so fast. We would drive through ticks, you know, troops and we would drive through fire. You know, like it was like we'll just, the guys in the, you know, in the middle or the back, you know what I mean? Like just nothing. I'm like, aren't we going to stop and kill these people? You know what I mean? Like it was bizarre. You know what I mean? And I'm sure they did, you know, like it's not an analogy, but it seemed like whether it was a no shit, like squad, or, you know, size element, or a singleton with a wrist rocket.
Sure.
We would just level the place. Yeah. Like just complete destruction. Yeah. You know,
and we couldn't do that. You know, like you weren't allowed to do that. You know, it was the same guy that's shooting at you, you know, either at dawn or at dusk, is inviting you in for tea when you patrol by the next day or the same day. You know what I mean? You just had no idea who was. Right. And they all had. We patrolled in Mahmudiya, Ludifia, and Yusufia. It was the Triangle of Death is what they called it. It was just south of Baghdad. And everybody had AKs in their house.
Sure.
I mean, all of them did.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything. That guy could pop off a few rounds, run around the back of his house, set the AK down, and come around the other corner and, oh, marhaba, you know, and want to give you gifts, and you know they're so you just never knew who was the bad guy and who wasn't.
How long did it take? Now, was that something that the unit you took, you relieved in place, kind of passed down, or how long did it take you, boots on the ground, to kind of come to that realization?
I remember we relieved 2-2, and they were on MSR duty, which is the MSR main supply route. So
2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines.
Yep.
2-2.
Yeah, that's who we relieved. And I remember doing they do what they call as a left seat, right seat, where half of them leave and half of them stay. And then, so half of our unit goes. And I remember them saying, just basically watch out for IEDs, and, you know, that you weren't going to get direct engagement that much. But they didn't really elaborate on how they mixed in with the local population. And on the MSR duty, you're static. You're in one spot. You're basically there to guard. The big thing was they were blowing up the overpasses with semis and car bombs and stuff to disrupt the supply chains. So,
yeah, and MSR is main supply route.
Yep. So they would drive a semi underneath of it and then blow it up. So part of our job was to babysit the overpasses so they couldn't blow them up. Mm-hmm. And so we really didn't get, or at least I didn't, from the guys that I talked to, a whole lot of, hey, this is what's going on. It was just like, hey, good luck, you know, this place blows, see you later, you know. So, but yeah, so that's how we started, was on MSR duty.
Can you remember, did you have the feeling that you had a solid grasp? Because I think it's important to kind of drill down on the lack of information that maybe your lower ranks, you know, your privates, your private first class, your lance corporals, you know, even your corporals, you know, did you feel like you had a good grasp about what was going on, what the objective was, what you were there to do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was as complicated and as it sounds. It was pretty simple. I mean, you were just there to root out the enemy, you know, wherever you could find them and push them out. Because again, a lot of them were insurgents. They were coming from other countries to fight us. It wasn't Republican Guard, or, you know, these guys were coming from all over Syria and whatnot. So you were there to create a footprint, show presence, and then at the same time try to root out the insurgents, you know. because they were working up to their first elections at this time. Towards the end of our deployment was going to be, if you remember, the purple fingers. And
I remember yeah.
So we were there for that. So we were trying to make it safer. And again, win the hearts and minds of the population that, we're here to help. They didn't want us there anyways, but we're here to help, So that was it was actually pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
The tactics were complicated, but the mission was simple.
Was it right? And that's generally the case, right? Excuse me. Walk me through that first patrol, that first foot patrol, and what that was like.
Well, I'll start with when we got to Kuwait. So we fly in. So you get on a regular people jet, like a giant jumbo jet to fly across the other side of the world.
Right.
You're sitting in an airplane seat with your rifle and whatnot. It was kind of fucking strange, if you're on the plane with a gun and whatnot. But I remember distinctly when the door opened and you stepped out onto the tarmac in Kuwait. It was like somebody had a fucking hairdryer.
Yeah, the heat and the smell.
It was just. Oh, there's a difference between dry heat and humidity. There definitely is, but it's still hot as fuck, and it's like somebody's got a hairdryer right in your face. So that was the big like, holy shit, when you feel that and you smell it.
It's surreal.
Sensory overload, right?
Yeah.
So then we get on a C-130, like a cargo plane, and sit in nets and fly to Baghdad. And when we got to Baghdad and got out on the tarmac at Baghdad, I mean, there's smoke in the distance. You can hear gunfire. You can smell it. Again, it's fucking hot as shit. It's dusty. It's sandy, gritty, And I remember walking to what they were originally was terminal buses.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fucking littered with bullet holes, broken glass, and then there was a second level of holy fucking shit, It's like the movies. It really kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hitting now. Like I said, you can see the fires, hear the explosions, the gunfire, whatnot. I mean, you're in it now. So we get on the little buses and they take us across the tarmac, and we get on 7 tons, the big trucks with open backs. They got benches in the middle of them, so everybody sits back to back facing the outside. They call it weapons outboard.
Yep.
And now they're going to take us, to our FOB and
which is forward operating base.
Yeah. So it was dusk. Like, and they always teach you that the history will tell you the main times that the enemy will attack is either morning or evening, usually. So, I mean, butthole pucker factor 10, we're in the shit now. And you're serpentining driving through these giant holes in the ground where IEDs have been placed, improvised explosive devices. And I mean, it's, again, sensory overload. It's so fucking hot. There's gunfire. You just rode in this bus that had been shot to shit. And like, you're just waiting at this point. It's like, when's it going to happen? When are we going to get shot
We
at?
just got here.
We just got here. Like, obviously this place has been blown to shit, So that was the first, like, when we first hit the ground, and then as far as like the first patrol, like, we were on MSR duty, the main supply route duty. So we were watching the bridge, and you're basically sleeping under the bridge. But we had a little post with sandbags right underneath of it, and you're watching traffic go by. And their SOP, their standard operating procedure, was park a semi under the bridge and fucking blow it up. And I remember I'm sitting there, and we have Iraqi National Guard at this point has been formed, and they're attached to us. We're training them. They're patrolling with us.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we got guys with us at this point. And so there's one sitting next to me, and here comes this big tanker. And it's slowing down. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. You're just going to get fucking vaporized. So, I mean, I'm on him. And when they start slowing down, you're allowed to shoot at them to get them to keep moving,
What kind of weapon system were you manning at the time?
I had a M16A4.
Yeah.
So here he comes creeping in, and I get ready to shoot him, and the fucking guy has a blowout on his tire.
Oh, yeah.
Boom! Underneath the overpass, which amplifies the sound. I fucking shit, like, not literally, but I shit. That fucking ING took off running. He was gone. He was gone. But I thought that was it. Like, first time sitting under the fucking bridge. And what are the chances this guy's rear tire blows out? You know, right underneath the bridge.
Well, what was he? This might be an elementary question. Did you have like a checkpoint set up, or what was he slowing down for?
I have no idea why. Maybe I have no idea why he was slowing down, but he did. And then, of course, when I could start letting rounds off at him, peppering the side of the truck, and then he keeps going after that. You know, like, go down the road and change your tire.
You're right.
But I thought that was the first time I was going to get smoked, this tanker, and it just happened to have a tire explode underneath the fucking
What
bridge.
was it like with the Iraqi National Guard guys? Like, did any of them speak any English whatsoever?
Some broken English, not very many. They definitely did not want to be there. They were cowards, for lack of a better word. Most of them. I mean, you had a few that were, but most of those guys that weren't cowards were insurgents that were infiltrating the ING.
I was going to say, like, was green on green at that point? Was like, did you have to?
That was a legit concern.
Legit concern was that they were just going to pick the day that, you know, they were going to take a few of you out.
Yeah, and you know, they hung around because they were obviously learning our tactics and reporting back, you know. But the guys that weren't, I mean, those guys were drinking gasoline to get out of patrol. Like, it was,
oh yeah.
I mean, anything to not go. And if there was any sort of contact, most of the time, gone, you know.
Yeah, and never to be seen again, or
right,
just,
yeah. So they were, I mean, worthless.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. And because of the language barrier, I mean, we learned basic Arabic before we went over, so you could, you know, at least have some idea of
shoot that way.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with the language barrier, and they're not trained like we are.
Sure.
So
sure.
It was extremely difficult.
What that's so interesting, because once again, we did have to deal with any of that, you know. We didn't have to deal with any of that. And so now not only are you worried about God knows what can happen, you know what I'm saying, with the IEDs and the guerrilla tactics that they're using, harassing tactics, and you got to worry about, you know, the Iraqi National Guard members to your left and your right, you know, that are just likely shoot you in the back, as, you know, like,
right.
How did guys handle that? I mean, it's something that you just kind of have to deal with, but I mean, I'm sure there were some guys that probably tried to befriend them or whatever. You know.
I mean, there was, most of the time they weren't treated very well. I mean, you weren't going to get close to them anyways, you know, because you just never knew. These guys are literally recruited right off the street, and then they come in and you don't know who they are. So, I mean, nobody treated them nicely, to be honest. You know, they were just strictly for numbers, you know. And if I mean, like, most of our checkpoints, they were the dudes you put out on the road to do the vehicle inspections, and they're called SNAP VCPs, you know, checkpoints, SNAP vehicle checkpoints. You're basically on patrol, and you say, hey, we're gonna string some wire out across here. We're gonna stop every vehicle and search them for weapons and bombs and whatever else. So those are the guys that would go up to the vehicle. We're not risking our life. You get up there and search it, you know, in case it blows up. You know, it's not blowing us up. But they were strictly for numbers. You know, that's all they were used for.
What was your first contact like? Do you remember your first contact?
Yeah, I remember we got trucked into this village called Yusufia, and we were attached to Fox Company, we were with Gulf Company, 2nd Battalion, 24th Marines, out of Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Fox Company was, I believe, out of Chicago, but our platoon, 2nd Platoon, was attached to Fox Company to do outer security. What they were doing was taking over an old police station and turning it into their forward operating base. So we dug fighting holes and patrolled around the outside of the village. Well, I remember when we got off the 7 tons, and we've got packs on all our gear. At this point, they were the old style camouflage. We were in digital camouflage at this point. It was the old style woodland camouflage vest that opened like from the front.
Yeah, your flak jacket.
Flak jacket, yeah. And so you had a standard combat load. I mean, everything on your back was probably 80 pounds with the pack, you know. So you're weighted down. I remember we got off the 7 tons and we took a knee. And wherever you go in these smaller towns, and well, I'm sure the bigger ones too, but they're covered in garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, all their shit runs in the street. You know, there's no indoor plumbing, and if it is, it's a PVC tube that runs to the road, and all their shit and garbage is in
everywhere.
The streets. It's the smell, and I remember we get off the 7 tons and we're taking a knee and we're setting security, and the 7 tons are driving away, and it was instantly people leaving their houses with suitcases and in mass.
You're like,
people are leaving the village. We're like, it's about to fucking get gnarly in here, because there's a reason they're leaving.
Yeah, they know. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody's leaving. Fox Company's in there doing their thing, and everybody in our platoons outside the 7 tons, they take off. We start doing a patrol in the streets. And one of the things I noticed right off the bat is all the women do all the physical labor. The men don't do anything. They run the grocery stores and the shops and shit like that.
Yeah, it is. Now that you mention that, yeah, it is kind of a bizarre. Yeah, they're
the women work the fields,
right? And the guys are just kind of standing around smoking and
that's
yeah,
what they do. Yep.
I remember that now. Yeah,
and so that was kind of running through my mind. And then they had Fox Company had a car bomb blow up.
That's how they initiated that contact.
Then it was small arms firing, So I remember we had to turn around and sprint back, and we set up the security, and Fox Company was taking casualties, so we had to set up a
casualty collection point.
CCP, for the helo to come in and evacuate them. And it was like the movies. I mean, there was fucking bullets flying, and then the mortars started coming in. And to me, I always thought the indirect fire was always scarier than actually getting in a no shit gunfight, because you already know they can't shoot, but all they got to do is be lucky with a fucking mortar. It can land 10 feet away and still get you. So hearing those come in, I was like, because you can hear them. They don't whistle like in the movies, but you can hear them. And I always thought, like, fuck, is it going to land right on my head?
Right.
Where's it going to land? But it was a complete combined arms assault. They had BBIDs, they had indirect fire, and they were flying around the corners in their little Toyota vehicles, guns out, So that was the first time we actually really experienced any combat. And
do you remember how you felt?
I remember how I felt afterwards. Like it was during, I mean, kind of like if you've ever been in a fight, like during, it's just second nature. I mean, you don't have time to think about it. I remember the adrenaline dump after, when we were sitting in our fighting holes and whatnot, and like almost kind of feeling wiped, but at the same time being like, holy shit. Yeah,
you're exhausted, but you're amped at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, it was fucking awesome. And when it's over, and like I said, they had casualties, so I mean they were flying guys out, and you thought, fuck, could have been me. You know what I mean? It's just luck at that point. So yeah, I remember that feeling of kind of coming down from it, and holy shit. But then after that, I mean, during that deployment, I mean, we were getting engaged every other day. I mean, or some sort of mortar fire or pop shots or whatever. So I mean, it kind of becomes here we go again type of thing, after. But that first one is when it's really kind of hits home.
Isn't that bizarre how, because I can, and I think most, combat veterans can relate, where it's such a surreal moment. That first time, somebody is actually shooting at you, and, kind of the only difference I would imagine is when, like, they initiate and they kind of catch, I don't want to say they catch you off guard, but it's like, normal everyday stuff. You're on operation, that it's a possibility that you could, be engaged.
Yeah.
But it's like if, all of a sudden, you're smoking and joking 1 second, and the next second, oh shit, somebody's shooting at us or whatever, right? So you don't have time. And I can remember for us in the invasion, I guess the only thing I could kind of equate it to is like the old, Civil War style where they're just marching towards it. Like we were just moving towards the combat, and so you had like this belabored, like, oh, we're getting closer, you know what I mean? Sure. And so it kind of drug out for a minute, like, can we just hurry up and get there? You know what I mean? Versus it's normal 1 second and the next second you're engaged, know? But yeah, and then how quickly you get kind of used to it. Like you said, like, oh, here they go. They're mortaring us again. You know what I mean? Like, it's bizarre how quickly you get from zero to it's not that big of a deal until it's a big deal.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And even in that, in that engagement, you know, like I said, it was the first one. So it was kind of like getting it out of the way. You know what I mean? But I remember one morning we were still in the fighting holes, and it was literally like we're on the edge of this road, and then the village is right there on the other side, and we're setting up their fob in the middle of that village, and it's bombed out. Like, it got blown to fuck. I mean, half a building's missing. Like, when you think about kind of like think of Saving Private Ryan when they're patrolling through the city in the rain and all the bricks and like their burn up cars. It's just like that when we were patrolling through most of the villages. But the sun was just coming up. And one thing about that struck me as I don't want to say bizarre, but I always thought the sunsets and the sunrises over there are fucking gorgeous. It's the most, I have a picture hanging on my wall in my basement of a sunset. They're just the most beautiful sunset and sunrises in such a shithole.
Yeah, prettiest thing in the desert.
Yeah.
Or maybe the only pretty thing in the desert. Yeah.
But I remember looking up and being like, God damn, that's a fucking beautiful sunrise, you know? And then all of a sudden you heard mortars getting launched. And again, fuck, here we go. You know? And they hit the top of a building right across the road, which had Fox Company Overwatch on top of it. And I just remember hearing the fucking screams. Like, I had not heard that before. I mean, grown men screaming
in agony.
In agony, you know, and I like, it was, I've never heard anything like it, you know. So that was during the first gun battle. It was, you know, it was so intense and whatnot. You didn't really notice anything except for exactly what you were doing. But this was dead quiet, dead calm in the morning, and then an explosion, and then you just hear these guys fucking screaming. You know,
yeah, something you'll never forget.
Never ever forget it. It is etched into your fucking soul when you hear your buddies fucking screaming like that. So that's coming back to, like, you think of, fuck it. It's just, is it your time or is it not? You know, it's almost luck. You can train as hard as you fucking want, but a mortar can fucking land on you and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Oh yeah, obviously they do a good job of kind of making you feel invincible, and then you quickly realize that you're kind of not. You can be Ninja Jesus, you know, and it really is kind of just luck. Yeah. You know, when you're in those types of, and I always had the feeling, and this isn't me trying to sound like Tommy Tough Knuckles, far from it. Like, I had made, it never crossed my mind. I shouldn't say it didn't cross my mind. Like, you can't do anything to stop it. If you're going to get hit, you're going to get hit. If you're going to, you know, like, if you're going to get hurt, if you're going to get killed, it's just, there's no, like, you do everything in your power to, you know, do things to alleviate that and act smartly and use your tactics, right? And keep your head on a swivel. But it doesn't take very long to figure out that, you know, I can go left, I can go right. And I went left and the bullet hit right. It could have gone the other way. Yeah. You know, so it's almost like, why even worry about it?
Right.
If I get hit, I get hit.
Yeah, it's an extra stress.
Right.
You know?
So you just, like, I just didn't think about it. Yeah. You know, I didn't think, and there were times, you know, like when we were on our position, we had been on our position on the rooftop at Saddam's palace for a minute. And I can remember thinking, if there's an enemy version of me, you know, across the street, if you will, like, this is a bad spot. Like, I could catch one in the teeth at any minute, because that's what I would do. Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's what I was doing. Yeah, right. You know, and so, you know, so it wasn't never. Yeah. But you know, it was only few and far between where it would kind of sink in, like, you know, this could suck, you know?
Yeah. And you have those moments, you know, like, say we're riding in the back of a 7-ton, again, the big trucks with the open sides. You sat facing outboard, and you'd go through these cities, and, you know, looking up in the windows and whatnot, like, this is a bad spot. Like, I don't want to be here right now. So yeah, there are definitely times. I always felt like if you were ever in a direct engagement gunfight with them, I'm going to win. But the car bombs, the IEDs, and the mortars, all they got to do is be lucky, like, so those were I think the most stressful things about it was that they were using the guerrilla tactics and whatnot. They were never directly engaging, or very rarely. And if they did, it was a few pop shots usually, and then they take off. So
it's almost, and I say this lightly because it's kind of a dangerous thing to say because it can be taken so poorly, but being in contact is almost better than not being in contact. Mm-hmm. It's like the anticipation of, is horrible. Like once you're in contact, it's just, you're on a kind of autopilot, the auditory exclusion, the tunnel vision, the so on and so forth, right? And then until it's over with,
right?
And then it's obviously the decompression or the adrenaline dump or whatever, and then rinse and repeat.
Right, right. And then go about your day. As soon as you'd have, like when we'd find an IED or an improvised explosive device that they buried, you'd set up a cordon around it, a circle of security around it, and then you'd call for the bomb disposal team or EOD, and they would come whenever they got there. You might be there all day, but whenever they got there, and then they'd detonate it, and then you'd continue on with your patrol. And it was just like la-di-da, just had a couple 155 millimeter howitzer bombs go off. No big deal. Good thing we found it, and then on you go. So it's just kind of weird, but that's your job.
Well, you had made mention during your turnover with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, that they were like, hey, watch out for IEDs. And like, I know what that means, but like, what do you mean? What would you look for?
During the workup, that's obviously an extensive part of the training, because at that time they were still using like leftover ordnance, like leftover bombs from the invasion and whatnot. Anything they could find to wire together, and then what they would do is either bury it in the ground or in trash, or they'd put it in a car. Hence the car bombs, So basically at that point they were still using hardwire and basically batteries to set them off. So what we would do, to kind of paint a picture for you, if we're searching for IEDs that are buried in a road, you'd have 2 Marines on the very edge of the road, and then the rest of us would V out away from it. So the farthest guys away from the road are the furthest guys ahead. And it was their job to basically spot the wire. And then we did most of it at night, obviously, so they couldn't see us. So you'd patrol alongside the road in a V formation. The guys on the outside would hopefully find the wire. And then we're using white light, flashlights. And then if you find the wire, everybody shuts their lights off, and you call to the squad leader and say, hey, I got a wire over here. So everybody takes a knee right where they're at, in case it goes off, in case they detonate it. Again, hopefully the guys that are the closest to the road, because they're targeting vehicles, are farthest away from it. So if we found one, and one time I did find one, this particular time stands out in my mind, is say, hey, we got a wire over here. Everybody shut their lights off. Squad leader comes over. We cut it, follow it back to it's going in a hole alongside the road. And it looks like somebody has taken their hands and piled dirt up like something's buried there. So EOD was busy, whatever they're doing. EOD is not huge. So they're all
there's not a lot of them.
Not a lot of them. So basically it was our job to determine whether or not it was a bomb, if there was any ordnance in the hole, before we called EOD, because you can't just call them up and, hey, I don't know, maybe, can you come look, So we were using our K-bars, our knives, to basically probe, like if you've ever seen in the movies where they probe for landmines, you stick it in there and kind of dig around, and I remember...
Super fun activity.
Yeah, exactly. Like being over this hole with a wire going in it.
It's the next closest thing to this thing besides my knife is my face.
Yeah, exactly. And you're thinking, well, at least it'll be fast. I won't feel it. It'll probably just be a flash and it'll be done. And I remember looking at Sergeant Oliver and saying, well, here we go, and there wasn't one in the hole this time. So
it's like a dry run.
It was a decoy, somebody's watching to try and figure out our tactics, And I mean, thank God there wasn't one in the fucking hole, but I'll never forget digging with my hands to see if I unearth a 155 millimeter howitzer round, staring back at me.
Dude.
So that was part of the job. I mean, that's what we had to do because there were, U.S. troops traveling this road all the time. And the minute you went by, dudes are out there burying fucking bombs again. I mean, as soon as you pass them, they're out there burying bombs. So it was a never-ending battle. And eventually they graduated from wires to cell phones to detonate them, and then pressure plates and,
One of the things, it's super interesting. One of the things that I always found fascinating was how they would use basically like aiming stakes or like the telephones to like time it, almost like we, aiming stakes in like a machine gun position, and I was learning this when I was teaching, because after the invasion I started teaching, and so I never, IEDs weren't a thing for us. They just weren't in the invasion, and so I always find it fascinating how they're not dumb. They found very interesting ways, to initiate those things, and you almost have to give them, as much as I hate to say it, a little bit of credit, and remember how frustrating that used to be, because we had this, even in the invasion, like I was disgusted with the fact of how they were fighting, like stand up and fight fair, and as ridiculous as that sounds, but it took me a while to be like, well, I wouldn't stand toe to toe with us either.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Talk about your kind of, David and Goliath, type, like there's no, you're going to, you know what I mean? Like there's no way, they didn't have a choice. They didn't have to think that hard about it. Like, don't go toe to toe with these guys.
Right. Yeah. They, and again, to your point, they're constantly watching and learning what you're doing, so, I mean, they aren't dumb. I mean, they're figuring out you just as much as you're figuring out them, and everything's constantly changing at all times. So, but again, they never wanted to stand up and fight you. That's why they used IEDs, and the car bombs. They're convincing these guys to blow themselves up, and that was another thing. Suicide vests. Guys would wear vests made of explosives and could walk, because we're intermingling with the population. I mean, these guys can walk right into your patrol if you let them, and blow up, So, I mean, there were so many different tactics that they would use that were hidden. It was, like you said, it wasn't like marching towards each other and take a knee and fire, and then if you fall down, it's just hidden. Everything's hidden. So it was always you're at level 10 all the time, as soon as you step outside the wire.
Yeah. Did you have supporting elements? Like, I'm sure your snipers were fairly active, did your, how did your tactics change from like the start of that first deployment to the end? Did they change, or did you kind of find, a winning formula, or?
I don't think they changed much. The biggest change was going from that static position on main supply route Overwatch, where you're just basically on a rotation, stand and post, all the way to kicking doors in. We had one of our missions was to eradicate the town of all military age males. Like, so we literally went door to door and took all the military age males and brought them back to our forward operating base. And the HET teams would come in. They're like the guys that come in and scan them in a database to see if they're insurgents or not, So, I mean...
Yeah, the intel teams.
Yeah.
Human intel team.
I can't remember what the acronym stands for.
I literally think it's human intel teams. I could be wrong. But.
Yeah, so, I mean, the tactics were stand and post all the way to kicking doors in and blindfold the whole nine, bag over the head, and take them to the fob. So when I mentioned we did it all, like we literally did it all. I mean, we did helo raids, where you jump out of the helicopters, all the way from stand and post, all the way to kicking doors in and just doing presence patrols.
What was that like? What, if you can remember, kicking that first door in?
Yeah, you don't know what's on the other side.
Right.
You've obviously trained for it and whatnot, but kind of like the first time getting engaged, you kind of get it out of the way. That first door, you just never know. Well, you never know on any of them, but yeah, that was intense. Like I remember stacking up on the first door and kicking it in, and here we go. And you're yelling and screaming, and they're freaking out, you know, because they could have been in there just hanging out, and you're coming in here and ripping dad and son out of the house and taking them to the fob. But it's surreal, you know. Hopefully you get it in one kick.
Yeah,
so
right.
they don't know you're there.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, literally, we went door to door, the entire village, and took out every military age male to be scanned and whatnot. And I'm not sure that's winning the hearts and minds, but we did it, you know. And we got a lot of bad guys out of the street from it. You know,
I'm sure you did
in the system. Do
you ever remember feeling? Because there's an element, right? And there's an element like at a certain point, I think in any combat deployment, especially the first one, you go from the word I would kind of use is almost like wonderment, you know, like it's everything is a first time, it's surreal. And then at some point it turns to anger, right? And whether that's through casualties or just the stress. And I can remember trying to show as much compassion and kindness as possible to like, you know, the women and the children, even though you couldn't really trust them either, you know, because I was so, you know, obviously quick to violence, you know, with everyone else. Yeah. Right. And when you have a human to human interaction like that, where you're basically busting down the door of, you know, of whomever, right? And like you said, ripping dad and son out of and the kids are screaming and the mom is screaming, you know, and they could be the worst dudes on the planet. Yeah. But not to them, they're not. Right. You know, and so when you think about, was there ever a time when you thought about that where it kind of like it's not a good feeling? You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're still human. You know what I mean? So you're still going to have that level of, I'm glad that I didn't have kids when I deployed, because I think that would have made it a hell of a lot different. Interesting. I mean, I guess I couldn't fathom, you know, even though we were the ones dragging the guys out and whatnot, but I couldn't think or fathom what it was doing or how the females or the kids felt. Now, I mean, I couldn't get on that level, you know. It was a job, and we were just doing a job, you know. So I guess I never really thought about it, but I think like if somebody broke into my house and, you know, drug me out and my son, or, you know, I just could have never even fathomed what that must have been like for them. The blinders are on, so to speak. Yeah, you kind of turn into, you know, you're on like autopilot, so to speak, right? Because you have to compartmentalize those emotions. But I just at a certain point, was there ever a time where you're like, fuck, we're no better than they are. Like, we're just the bad. Like, one of my very, very good teammates said this to me one time, and it'll stick with me till the day I die. He goes, don't ever forget, you know, you're the bad guy. We're the bad guy in somebody else's story. Oh, yeah. You know, and you kind of, it turns you into like, do you remember like making that switch? You know what I mean? Like, I basically, you know, to use a movie analogy, I felt like I went into the invasion like Elias, you know, kind of like an idealist and let's do this right and we're here for good reasons. And I kind of left like Barnes, where it's like, I'll burn this entire place to the ground by myself. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when you get there, it's all we're doing the right thing, and you know, it's all about the mission and whatnot. But then, and I think it's a combination of things. You're fatigued, you know. What the fuck are we doing? You know, I remember we actually had Dan Rather at 60 Minutes fly into our forward operating base and interview us. Yeah, which was kind of cool. But we had just recently lost 4 more of our guys, and his main question was, he kept asking, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And I think that was kind of the point where I was like, what the fuck are we? What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like that was a bit of a turning point for me, you know. But it was weird that with him asking, you know, that kind of made you think about it a little bit. But
yeah, it definitely changes from when you get there to when you leave. And then when you leave, you're like, thank God, like that's fucking over with, get the fuck out of here. But yeah, you kind of wonder, especially when it's patrols every day, you're not really seeing any quote unquote improvement, like.
Well, you're kicking water uphill for sure.
Yeah. Like what are we doing now? I'd mentioned earlier, we were there for their first elections. So that kind of made you feel like you were making a difference. Like they're having their elections and it was all because of us and we set it up. But I mean, that went to shit.
Yeah. I'm sure they were. I'm sure. Yeah. Rep won first draft. I'm sure it was free and fair across the board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it definitely changes and you're a completely different person after anyways, you're not the same when you come home. So, I mean, dealing with that too, but yeah, it definitely changes throughout.
How did, and we'll kind of skipping ahead, like, I don't know about you, and I definitely want to hear your take on it. Like, I never questioned why we were going, because that was overshadowed by how badly I wanted to go.
Same.
And like to scratch that itch, to check that box, to what have you, right? And it wasn't until a long time afterwards where I was like, wait a second, like, what were we even there to do to begin with? And okay, WMDs, right? Well, that was, hindsight being 2020 now, we know that was, completely made up, so what the fuck were we even doing there in the first place? How long or when did that start to sit in? You said, were you still in the middle of it? Because
no, I never really, well, like I said, when you're towards the end, because you want to go home.
Yeah.
Like I'm fucking sick of getting shot at. I'm sick of fucking wondering if I'm going to step on something and explode. I'm sick of the mortars. I'm sick of no fucking electricity. I'm sick of not showering. I'm sick of MREs. You just want to go home. You go from, yut and jumping off the trucks and fucking doing your thing to I want to go home, And so it wasn't until, after that I kind of thought, well, that was worthless. Like what did we accomplish?
Yeah, what did we accomplish?
But I mean, I guess I don't know.
I always say when people ask me and tell me if you kind of concur, like I'm very proud that I went, and I'm very proud of the guys to the left and right of me, like as a whole. But I'm ashamed we were even there in the first place. Does that make sense? Because
you're just doing what you're told. I mean, and again, and when you're there, it's not, I'm fighting for my country as much as I'm fighting for the guys to the left and right of you, just as you said, that's who you're there for. It's no longer, I'm fighting for my homeland. I'm trying to keep me and these guys alive, and so that's your mission. But then, when it's all over and done with, then you're kind of like, again, I'm extremely proud that I went and that I got to go serve my country to the fullest extent, but you're kind of like, what the fuck? All that for what? It's not a utopia over there now.
Yeah, so Halliburton could get some sick contracts.
Right.
I mean, honestly, like you can get pretty cynical. Like, what were we there to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then to do it again, a year and a half later.
Yeah.
Again, and that the second time. Now, this is the first time I went was 04 to 05, and the second time was 07 to 08. And that the second deployment was so restricted as far as your rules of engagement are concerned. I mean, we were literally counting our bullets on a daily basis. And I don't know if that was to make sure you weren't shooting them, or like, why are we doing this?
And what would happen if you've miscounted or you lost one?
I never did. No, I don't think anything ever happened. Like they were, I think, more worried about the big shit, when I say big shit, I mean like your flares and your grenades and
really,
they weren't so much like.
You weren't counting 5.56 rounds.
Well, I was, because I had subsonic ammunition, because I had a Mark 12.
So, okay.
Which is basically a modified M16 with a Leopold scope, and we had suppressors and whatnot. But so I was counting 5.56 round, but everything else, you had to count everything else all the way up to pen flares, which were little flares that were the size of a pen that your gunners, your turret gunners in the vehicles would shoot at vehicles when they'd get too close if you wanted them to stop. Rather than the first deployment, it was 2 to the ground. If they didn't stop, 2 to the hood, and then if they didn't stop, light the windshield.
All of it in the windshield. Yep.
And none of them knew how to stop. So, I mean, there was a lot of people getting shot because they were confused.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that,
we did deal with that. There was, unfortunately, quite a bit of that.
Yeah. And so, you know, to mitigate that, it was pen flares and blah, 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 blah. But we had to count everything. So the rule, we shared the road with people. Remember, I talked about the car bombs that, you know, you didn't let, in the first deployment, you didn't let anybody get within 500 feet of you, you know, without lighting them up. Now they're driving next to you. You know, can't shoot unless getting shot at first. I mean, it was like you were so
crippled.
Yeah, you were basically combat ineffective. And then to go on top of that, all of our gear had changed. Remember, we went from the woodland flak jackets that closed like this, and you had your combat load on it, which were probably, you know, the flak jacket with a combat load is probably like 50 pounds, maybe.
It was heavy.
It was heavy. Now we've got these, you look like RoboCop. We've got these flak jackets that you pull over your head. They've got body armor or SAPI plates in the front, in the back, in the sides. I mean, you could put them everywhere. And on top of your combat load, it was heavy, and you couldn't hardly get in and out of the vehicles. In the first deployment, all of our Humvees were basically like ragtop. I remember we had like one up armored, which was like had bulletproof windows and whatnot.
Yep.
But all the rest of them were Desert Storm era, you know, fiberglass, no armor, you know, plenty of room to move around in them. And now you're in a steel coffin, you know, and you can't get in and out of it because your armor and everything is so thick. So good luck running for very far or you know, being mobile in it. So it was like everything was the complete opposite of 2004. So, and there just wasn't a whole lot going on. But yeah, so it was a huge difference. We had internet, we had showers, you know, our forward operating base had a small chow hall and a gym, you know what I mean? So, which actually made it more difficult in my eyes. I was a squad leader. I was a corporal at this time, I think corporal or sergeant, but I was a squad leader, and keeping the guys off the internet was a challenge.
Yeah.
Or at least keeping them from saying dumb shit was a challenge.
What do you mean?
I mean, just like we had one guy write home via the internet that we handed out a lot of humanitarian aid, school supplies and stuff to the kids, and
on the second deployment.
Yeah, on the second deployment. And this guy was saying shit like, "I'd rather hand them grenades." Well, can you imagine somebody, you know, reading that? And these are college-age kids, you know, that are a lot of them going to college and writing their college girlfriends about how they want to hand these kids grenades. Well, little Miss Susie ran to somebody who had some pull and said, "Read this shit." And it got all the way back to us. Like, it was a big deal. So, I mean, all the way to, you know, we're still, infantry, we're running foot patrols. Hey, what time are we going on this next op? Because I got a date with so-and-so via MSR Messenger, you know, at 7:00. Any way we could be back for that?
It's just a distraction,
it's
right?
It's a giant distraction.
Giant distraction.
04, we had
none.
pen and paper.
Yeah.
And it took a month for your stuff to get to and from. Or if you were lucky enough, I think our company had one satellite phone that you could make a call on like once every 6 weeks or whatever, you know. So it was, nice to be able to shower, you know, and use a gym and have hot food and whatnot, but it was a giant distraction as far as keeping guys in the right mindset of doing a combat operation. You know? So that really pissed me off as a squad leader.
I can relate. We had, and, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, how often do you look back and go, there's what I did, and at the time it seemed like the right thing to do, and then looking back on it now, like, probably, you know, could have had another course of action. we had, there was a couple Iridium satellite phones, right? And then we had embedded media, we had embedded reporters. And if you buddied up, and guys did left and right, if you buddied up with them, they might let you sneak, a quick call or whatever. But otherwise, it was on the rare occasions that we would be in a situation where somebody would break that phone out, then the line was just instantly, a mile long, right? And everyone gets 2 minutes or whatever.
Yep.
And I can remember my platoon commander, and I adamantly object. I was like, negative. And they're like, what are you talking about? You don't want to make a phone call home? I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, no. That's a distraction.
All that's going to do is bring you back home.
Yeah. I was like, I'll talk to him when I get home.
Yeah.
And I'm not, at the time it felt no questions asked. It felt like the right course of action, obviously not taking into consideration. And I probably even justified it back then. Like, it's better for them, even though it's crushing them, that I'm not calling back. Because I can, Jennifer, my wife, she was working casualty watch, at the, for lack of a better term, like headquarters. So she's watching, and you're surrounded, right? She's watching these names come across the ticker tape, just waiting, kind of to see mine. She can see where 1st Battalion 5th Marines is at. She can see, the sniper, she can see all of it on like the Blue Force tracker, And, and meanwhile, I'm trying to keep it real and be, Tommy Tough Knuckles and not write, not call, not anything. And then, of course, other platoon member wives are like, oh, I got to talk to so-and-so the other day and so-and-so. And she's like, oh, Dagan's over there just being an asshole, or whatever.
Yeah, to your point, you kind of don't think about that either. Like, you're not concerned about how it's making people feel back home.
Yeah, not until after the fact, when you kind of sit back and go, oh, yeah, that probably sucked.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how many times I've apologized for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the exact opposite on the second deployment, we had phones in our hooch, like in our billeting area. So you could I remember calling home. I would call home like once a week during the second deployment. And I remember one time, you're around the world, other side of the world. Hey, Mom and Dad, how you doing? How's it going? I just talked to them last week, and they're like, hey, I'd love to talk, but we're going to dinner with Bill and Char. We got to go. And I was like, oh, okay, bye. Like you'd run out of shit to talk about.
Yeah. And then it's almost, now you feel worse.
Yeah,
now
like I'm bothering them.
And too, like I would think that would solidify, not that you don't realize where you're at and what you're doing, but it's such a surreal experience, right? I don't care if it's the first time, second time, the third time. And then to realize or to have that mental picture, like you don't think about the fact that everybody back home is, well, at least I didn't. They're going about their normal day.
Yeah.
They're kicking the tires or they're spilling their coffee and they're, blah, 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 blah. Like it's never out of sight, out of mind, obviously. But it's, like that would solidify. I wouldn't want to take that phone call. Oh, you don't want to talk, like it would just make, it would make me feel like shit.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't make any calls.
Yeah. 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 It was, in my opinion, a huge distraction. The technology and the ability to be on it whenever you wanted. And I can remember coming home, and I'd had several buddies that were younger than me in high school and were following. They were overseas, and they'd be on MSN Messenger. Hey, man, what's up? Hey, what's going on? How's this deployment going? Oh, I just killed like 97 dudes yesterday. It's going pretty good. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, A, no, you didn't, and B, like, why are you telling me this? Like,
well, because you're 20.
Yeah, exactly.
You're 19. You're 18.
Yeah. And I thought, why? I mean,
your head's only half out of your ass at that point,
right.
And it's you're a kid.
I don't think. I mean, it was bad. It was hard to keep the guys
focused
on what we were there to do. But so I mean, the second 07 to 08 was basically a cakewalk compared to 04 to 05. I mean, we had everything you could ask for, from showers to honey buns. And mail that would show up in a week, like your letter turnaround was instantaneous almost if you were writing hard letters, But everything was vehicle patrolled, whereas in 04 and 05 we walked everywhere because of the roadside bombs. I mean, you didn't drive. If you wanted to get blown up, go ahead and drive a vehicle, but you walked everywhere to avoid that. Now we're driving these up armored Humvees and MRAPs, giant up armored. The 7 tons were open in the back and looked like fiberglass semis. These are giant, like,
Mad Max.
Yeah, huge vehicles that barely fit on the road. Air conditioned, bulletproof glass. We didn't have any of that in the first round. So I mean, it was a night and day, totally different experience.
Talk to me about, because on your second deployment, you're in a normal kind of rotation, you're gonna have people exit. So like, talk to me about being, as we like to say, salty on your second deployment versus the guys. Like, were you able to recognize kind of yourself as being like like, hey, this is this guy's first time, and remember what it was like to be there in those first time real surreal situations, right? Can you explain or talk about how did you use your seniority and your experience to help those guys?
Yeah, and I remember kind of.
Or did you shit on them?
Well, I think in the beginning, during the workup, you kind of do, because I mean, these guys get to the unit, and when I got to my unit, that unit had never deployed. None of those guys had been anywhere, so we were all going.
You didn't have any I&I staff or any full-timers?
Nope.
No, but everyone's first time from stem to stern?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that I remember. I don't remember ever having somebody that had already gone. So, I mean, we were all brand new going through this all together at the same time. So I can imagine when these guys showed up to the unit and it was like, those guys, even though you're basically the same age, those guys probably looked at us like we were old.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So during the workup, I kind of remember trying to get myself in that mindset, being, these guys haven't gone through it, and we have, so trying to coach them more than fuck them up, like be an asshole to them, was, especially like as a squad leader, trying to not just haze them into submission, and train them like that, be more of a mentor to them, and I think a lot of guys looked up to me for that, using that type of leadership as opposed to ruling with an iron fist, so yeah, but it was, you'd catch yourself, like, hey, these guys, this is round 2 for you, this is round 1 for them, they haven't done it, so try not to be so much of a dick, but
yeah, but it's a fine line, like, you have to, you're almost saving them from themselves.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, you at the same time, you think if I go easy on them, they could go the wrong way. It's as serious as a heart attack. As much as you like to try and integrate some fucking good times into it, you still gotta fucking train them the right way, so you can bring them all home.
Yeah, God forbid, right? Like, I think that's the nightmare everybody lives is. I'm comfortable and I've made peace with the fact that I don't have control over what happens, but what I do have control over is my actions through tutelage or mentorship or training, the actions to the guy to the left or right of me. Like, as long as I don't fuck up, or if I fuck up, hopefully it just hurts me, right? God forbid if I fuck up and it hurts the guy to the left or the right of me, and vice versa, right? And so, like you said, very, very stern and very, and I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't have to deal with that. My sniper team and platoon, we had been together for a very long time, prior to the invasion, and we had kind of a sprinkling of veterans. There was some Gulf War and Somali veterans. I can remember my platoon sergeant was a veteran of both, but for the most part, it was kind of everybody's first time, or a lot of people's first time. Right. And, so I was just, at that time there's, probably on their 4th and 5th, depending on what year it was. So I was just interested to see how you handled that.
Yeah. I mean, you just, I don't know if you can, I think certain people are, and maybe I sound like an ass when I say it, but kind of born with certain leadership skills.
Oh, sure.
So,
yeah.
I mean, like not tooting my own horn, but I always felt like our upbringing and our experience with the being around the military and whatnot kind of helped, as far as molding me into, I thought I was a good leader, so hopefully they did too, but I felt like I had an advantage a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was a squad leader as a Lance Corporal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to the squad leader course, and I remember a major coming up to me and he's like, "Hey, Killer, like, I think it's awesome you're here and, at the course and trying to get some experience, and, that's badass. When you get a squad someday, this will really help." And I was like, "Well, I'm a squad leader." And he goes, "Not as a fucking Lance Corporal, you're not." And I was like, "Well, I am."
Yeah.
He's like, "No fucking way." Like, no fucking way. So he was dumbfounded by it, but
yeah.
I had my own squad. I ended up losing it to a sergeant that they thought had more stripes, so he needed it, but I ended up getting it back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There were some shenanigans that were afoot, so I ended up getting it back. So, but yeah, I was a squad leader pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes it just, because I was in that situation a few times where, rank kind of didn't matter. It was who was kind of best for the job, and I've always been a believer in, if there's someone that's pining for the job, they're probably not the right person. Find me the guy that, just kind of comes by it naturally, or moreover doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to do it, and that's probably the best person for the job,
Yeah.
And obviously there's examples of, where that math doesn't work out. There's some people that don't want it because they know flat out they're not the person to do it.
Right.
But I think the Marine Corps obviously does a good job of, everyone is at least, they know how to, they're capable, maybe. They know what to do. It's whether or not they're capable of doing it effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, to kind of circle back to the boot camp, I talked about losing my squad because I was a Lance Corporal. In boot camp, I was a gray man, which meant I stood back and watched for like the first week,
Sure,
and see how things operate. And then I became the third squad leader like second week, and I was a squad leader all the way through until the end when we go up the Reaper, to the big mountain that you see on the posters and stuff that we climb at the end. And the senior drill instructor said, "If anybody can keep up with me, you'll graduate guide." So I stared at his heels, and we blew the rest of the platoon out of the water and got all the way up to the top. And he turned around and he goes, "Now go down and get my fucking guide on." The flag, that the lead guy, the guide's holding, so do it twice. Go back down there,
Yeah, you did such a good job. We're going to make you do it twice.
Yeah. So I went halfway back down, met the platoon, took the guide on, and brought it back up to the Reaper to the senior. And he goes, "All right, Van Oosten, you're fucking guide from now on." And I only had one phase. There's 3 phases in boot camp. I was in the last one, and I'm going to graduate guide. So we get done with the Reaper and whatnot, and we go down to we get back down to San Diego to the depot because the Reaper's up in Pendleton, and
Camp Pendleton was just a little bit north from San Diego.
Yeah, so in a different area. He calls me into his office, the duty hut, and he starts asking me what my trouser size and uniform size is and shit, because I get to graduate in blues since I'm the guide. So I've been guide for like 3 weeks, maybe, and he's flipping through my SRB, and first of all, I was standing there, of course, at the position of attention, but my eyes were moving because I'd never seen the inside of the duty hut before.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never,
You really?
No, never seen it. So he spots that my eyes are moving. He's like, "Hey, did I fucking say I fucked my fucking duty hut?" And I was like, "Sir, no, sir," And he goes, "What the fuck is this?" As he's looking at my SRB.
Your service record book.
Yeah, he's got my paperwork open. He goes, "What the fuck is this shit?" And of course, I didn't say anything. I'm staring straight ahead, and he goes, "You're a fucking reservist?" And I was like, "Sir, yes, sir. This recruit is a reservist, sir." And he goes, "No fucking reservist is graduating guide in my fucking platoon. Get the fuck out of here."
Oh my God.
And back down to third squad leader I went.
Damn
and
it.
Gave the other guy that I took the guide on from back to the guide. So he got to graduate guide. I didn't because I was a reservist. So,
oh man.
Back to getting my squad taken from me because I was a Lance Corporal. I didn't have the rank to get it, but I got it back. But yeah, this one of the funny story that from boot camp.
Yeah, it's such a, I think where that comes from is there's so much suck. I mean, that's what they say. Welcome to the suck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think it's almost a little bit of jealousy that, I'm submitting myself to this 24/7 and, there's an option where that's not necessarily,
right. Yeah.
and once again, like, I don't think I could have turned it on and turned it off. Like I was either all in or not in at all. And, it's unfortunate that there's, kind of that's pretty common. I used to shit on reservists hard.
Mm-hmm.
I was that guy. Mm-hmm. I would have been that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for no other reason than, I don't know. It's just you like, hey, you either do this all the time or you don't,
or
which
you
is
don't,
which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's you know what I mean? Like everyone has a job. And like you said, like depending on your unit, you deployed more times than I did in Iraq, because I went to the schoolhouse and started teaching, so who's fucking tough now? You know what I mean? Or whatever, But yeah, it's I had a similar experience in boot camp as well, where sit back, kind of check out, see what's going on or whatever. And once I got a squad leader position and I would jock, it was almost like me and the guide would jockey back and forth. When the main guide would fuck up, obviously I would grab the pike the guide on, and same thing. Like I had it for like the second half of, and I wasn't gonna lose it, right? I wasn't gonna lose it. And I think, if I remember correctly, we were practicing for final drill. And if there was one thing I was not good at, it was drill, was marching, And it was one of those deals where we were reviewing and practicing for the final drill evaluation. And it was like right face, and I, for whatever reason, just turned the exact wrong way.
Yeah.
Your other right, and one of the drill instructors jumped up in the stands and was, basically giving me the hand and arm signal to your life's about to end.
Yeah.
And that was it. No longer the guide.
It took one left face.
It took one wrong move, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny how important that shit is when you're in the mix, when you're in the, and it's obviously now it's kind of a joke, like, who gives a shit?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
right.
it's, you're so competition driven,
Right.
and it's something to go after. But it's, I think that there are some people that come by leadership traits naturally, and thank God for it. And, I always say, I don't have to be in charge. You got to be a good follower, right? You have to be a good follower. And you start to pick and choose, like certain traits and aspects from, so hopefully you have good, leadership around you, to mold yourself into, hey, I like the way he does X, or I like the way he does Y.
Yeah.
And I was the one thing that I tried to make sure that my guys knew was, I'm going to try and protect you from as much shenanigans and bullshit as humanly possible. Say nothing about, life, limb, eyesight stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you got to perform for me. You know what I mean? And realize that there are going to be some times where I'm not going to be able to shield you from it, and we're going to do it together. I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Right.
So it's, leaders eat last,
Yeah.
right? It's being selfless, right? And putting those guys before you, and those drill instructors, they see that. It's leadership through action, and in all forms.
Yeah.
Like who's helping when no one's looking,
Right.
The work ethic, because how easy is it to spot a spotlight ranger,
Right.
Someone who's just doing something for the attention.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I think the Marine Corps does a good job of, turning people into leaders, whether they realize they came by it naturally or not.
Yeah.
Going back to the, the ribbing between the active duty guys and the reservist guys, like, talk about your first time showing up to Camp Horno.
Oh yeah. We were, we got to Horno, and our building was right underneath the snipers. They were on the second floor, and
which for the audience, Horno is an infantry camp, kind of in the center of Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, and you had been in the snipers. We had talked about. You kind of told me these guys are. If you're near them, and I just happen to be underneath of them, who knew that was going to happen?
If you're looking for a friend, I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we were grabbing all our gear and walking over to the thing, and they were standing on top. And as soon as I rounded the corner and saw the ghillie suits hanging from the top, from the railing, I was like, oh, good, they're stay guys. They're snipers. I'll just tell them who my brother is, and they'll love me. And goddamn, they were spitting on us and fucking throwing shit, or not literal shit, but like they were calling us every name in the fucking book, and it was not a warm welcome,
And I knew it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
I remember having that conversation with you, and you were kind of looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" It reminded me of when I told my wife. I'm like, you can't drive, like she had the Marine Corps stickers all over the back of her Jeep or her Geo Tracker. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you have to take those off. And she looked at me like, how dare you? And I said, I'm telling you, they will flip that car over and set it on fire.
Yeah. I
was like, you have to take those stickers. I can't explain it to you. It's a real thing. Do not do that. You know what I mean? And especially into an infantry camp. Mm-hmm. So I knew, you know what I mean? I knew it wasn't going to be a warm welcome. And it didn't click, but I'm sure it did when you got there.
Yeah. You think about like being a freshman coming in and the seniors giving you shit. I mean, that's the way I can relate to it.
Extremely violent seniors.
They were fucking pissed off. And, of course, the reservists are going to be right underneath of us, and it probably lasted a week, and they got bored with it. You know what I mean? But they fucked with us hard.
Yeah, oh, sure.
But your spotter happened to be in Camp Horno, so I got to go over and, talk with him and whatnot. But yeah, it was not a chow. Probably bodily fluids. Who knows? We're coming over the edge of the railing, because the fucking weekend warriors were here, So,
yep.
But at the end of the day, like you said, we all do the same. We all do the same fucking job,
Well, it wasn't just a reservist and active duty thing. It's just a new guy thing, because when we checked into Fast Company, there was 4 of us. Fleet anti-terrorism security teams out of Norfolk Naval Base, and it's a very small unit. We were in our alphas, and there was only 4 of us. Excuse me. And it happened to be the day of the the company Christmas party. So these guys have been off all day waiting to go to the Christmas party, which was at night. So they're drunk. They've been drinking all day, and they marched us in. The closest thing I can describe it to like paint the picture is like in the movies where it's like a prison riot. Mm-hmm. They're throwing the toilet paper rolls, and we're getting marched in through this gauntlet of the senior, the gunnies and the platoon sergeants. Mm-hmm. One of them was Sergeant Major Black, who either is the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps right now or was, I'm not paying that close of attention. But they were looking at our shooting medals. This one can shoot, this one can't, this one can shoot. And meanwhile, like, that's the only thing I really noticed out of that because of the amount of shenanigans that were coming from the balconies and the railings, threatening your life. I was like, holy, these guys are going to kill us, And it's just some friendly hazing, and then, like you said, it went on for until it just kind of slowly dissipated,
Yeah.
But that initial walk-in I was like, oh, this is what being marched into prison is like.
Yeah, this sucks.
Like, this is going to suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then I couldn't wait for my turn to do it,
Exactly. Yeah, for the new guys to come in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but like I said, it kind of went away after about a week. They got tired of it, not bothering us anymore, so...
Yeah. Well, what was it like what was your decision and your thought process to get out, right? Was it the combination of that second deployment not being very fruitful, or you just felt like your time was up or you'd done enough?
Yeah, the second deployment and the amount of the handcuffs that were kind of on, and again, it wasn't very eventful, but you still felt like you were hamstrung, like you couldn't operate or do anything, so without being watched or scrutinized, or it was very political. And when we got back, I was pretty close to getting out, and they were talking about staff sergeant and being a platoon sergeant, and I kind of felt like that was more of an admin position. I wanted to be in the squad. I still wanted to stay with the guys and whatnot. And I mean, as your career goes on, you move up and they move you to positions like platoon sergeant or whatever, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be the guy that was in charge of counting making sure everybody had all their gear, counting your night vision goggles and whatnot. Like, I kind of felt like it was not a very exciting position. And so I was just like, yep, this is getting too political and too quiet for me. There was nothing going on. There was no talk of another deployment. So I was like, yeah, that's probably a good time to get out. So I did.
Did you ever regret that decision?
No, I don't think so. And especially because I still had guys in, and they were kind of telling me how things were going, and it sounded pretty stupid. So there was a lot of, it was kind of like the difference between, being deployed and then being in country in garrison.
Yeah, that's super hard.
Like being home on a U.S. base, where now your haircut and your shave matters,
right?
And the shade of green of your T-shirt is not the right shade of green. Like, that's stupid. So there was a lot. They were slowly kind of resorting back to that type of mentality, and I was like, nope, not for me.
Yeah, so. And that's fine. With like when you're like, you only have to raise your hand one time, right? And it's so few people, do, and thank God that that they do, and that's not like, oh, thank God for us, but like that there's people that raise their hand for whatever reason they raise their hand for, right? Let alone multiple times, and so I always ask that question when we have veterans on the show here, like, because I think there's always that little bit of, depending on how successful you are in civilian life, which is an entire another episode in itself, how hard it is to transition and, find that new sense of self and purpose and what have you, and some guys, and gals do it better than others, right? And everything in between. But it's, there's got to be a time, and there's going to be times where you're like, man, I wish I was back. It's like you forget about all the bullshit.
Yeah.
You just remember the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is, in the thick of it, it's like 90-10, 90% of this is so much bullshit.
Yeah.
And then there's 10%, and the boredom, say nothing about the life, limb, and eyesight. We were very, I had a good friend of mine, say something epiphanical to me once where he was a SEAL, retired SEAL, and he was an FBI hostage rescue team operator, and multiple deployments, in both obviously the SEAL teams and with FBI hostage rescue team. And he's like, we're having beers, and he goes, do you know how lucky we are to have been involved with this for as long as we've been involved with it, and still 10 fingers, 10 toes, to where the, you know what I mean? Like, that is, he goes, to chase the quote unquote, chase the dragon that long, but there's still always that, it's just different when you get out. It's different when you just, I mean, it's like, it's hard, right? It's hard to find that new sense of, this is my new normal, right? Especially coming off a deployment. Did you find yourself struggling at all when you came back from either deployment?
Yeah, the first deployment, I can distinctly remember coming home, and like when we did 5.5 months in country, so we got out a little bit earlier. It was supposed to be a 7-month deployment. It was still a year-long activation, but we got out of country at 5.5 months. So it was a little early. They asked if we wanted to finish out our orders, the year contract in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where our headquarters was. And some guys decided they wanted to go home. And I mean, we had a 2-week, what they call as a cool down period. When you get back from country, you basically just hang out for 2 weeks and do basic shit, and some guys decided right after that 2 weeks, they're just going to go home. You can cut my orders now. I'll just go back into the reserves, and I decided I wanted to stay. I was like, well, I'm getting paid, might as well they're going to put me in a hotel in Madison, Wisconsin, it's always a good time here. So I'll just hang out. Well, that was easy. All we did was do formation at 7:00, and then we do a company or a platoon PT, and then you were done for the day, So when I got done with that was like, I think it was like 6 weeks or something, maybe tops, but trying to come home and adjust to normal life, I had I'm not doing a fucking thing. I'm not getting a fucking job. I just, dodged fucking bullets for 5.5 months.
You have like this sense of entitlement.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to do what I want to fucking do, and that's it, and I kind of couldn't shake that. Like I didn't want to do anything if somebody was telling me I fucking had to do it, so going to a job was not something I wanted to do. So I struggled with that for quite a while, a lot of drinking, a lot of sitting around.
Yeah. Self-medicating.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So, and then when we got the call that we were going to go again, so it was like, again, like a year and a half, I think. Like I was so fucking excited to get out of continental United States. Like, thank God, because I wanted to go back from the minute I got home from the first one. I wanted to go back, which is weird. I think you hear that from a lot of vets.
Oh, sure.
All you want to do is go home when you're there, but then when you get home, regular life sucks. I just want to go back, and be with the guys. So that's how I was. And then when we got the call to go again, I was super excited. And then I didn't have so much of a hard time on coming home the second time, kind of reintegrating. But I don't think anybody ever goes completely back to normal, and is, you think about going to high school, going to college, and then you get a job, and that's what you do. That's what society says you should do. Well, we go to high school and then go to a foreign country, 1, 2, 3 times, however many times, and then you're supposed to come home and stock shelves or do your 9 to 5 work at a bank. It's like, this is not easy,
Yeah, well, because adrenaline is a drug just like anything else, right? Adrenaline is a drug, and you get addicted to it very, very quickly. And, it's that you just have to keep that certain kind of level that, and it's hard to do here in the States, right? Depending on what your activities are, you know what I mean? So I think it's super normal, right, to come back and have guys like, I just need to go back. I want to go back, right? And people usually look at me funny when I say this, but in some ways, being in a combat zone as an infantryman is one of the simplest things. Life is just simple, right? Don't get killed. Try not to get killed. Try not to do anything to get your teammates killed, right? And make sure that the bad guys go away, right? And kind of the end. And then, maybe I'll get food, maybe I won't, hopefully, right? Yeah. And that's it, know?
Yeah, I distinctly remember being like, it is just way easier.
Yeah.
Deployed. There's no bills, there's no, there's no job, there's no boss. It's like you said, it's way simpler. It's just easier, as weird as that may sound, but it is. There's only the important shit matters,
right?
And
yeah,
that's it.
It really clears the slate, and it makes you realize, how much, insignificant bullshit that we get wrapped up in the civilian world, right? Because if it's not, if it doesn't affect in a positive or negative way combat effectiveness over there, then it's not, why are we talking about it?
Right.
Other than the downtime where you're just kind of bullshitting with your buddies or whatever, type stuff, right? But yeah, nobody's worried about the bills or whatever, that stuff it just doesn't matter, And I think everyone, unless they make peace with, there are very few things that separate like humans, right? There's things that people can never understand. Like like for an example, I can never understand what it's like to, carry a child for 9 months or what, and give birth, like what the experience of that is like. Doesn't matter what you read, doesn't matter what, right? And I think that's like that in combat. There's people that have been to combat and there's people that haven't, and that's not to say that it's a good or a bad thing. It's kind of a natural separation. Yeah. And so you start to feel like, it could be, isolating, and then you kind of gravitate towards people that can share that experience, That's not to say that, you look down on those civilians, although sometimes you do, why, you got to remind yourself that you're the one that, there's no draft, you raise your hand, right? Right. And that's another podcast unto itself, or another episode unto itself, right? Like the veterans entitlement, kind of syndrome. And I can remember being on another show and somebody getting a little bit of the case of the ass, where I'm like, dude, you've been through, frankly, like the hardest shit known to man, within reason, everything you can compare, like active combat is one of the most difficult things anyone will ever go through ever. And you did it well, whether you got hit or what, like you survived it. You nailed it. You survived it. Whether it was luck or skill or tactics or what have you, you can't go into the Verizon Wireless family and basically take that place over. Like everything else should be a cakewalk. Yeah. That's easy to say because it's just not for some people. Yeah. It's like you've already climbed Everest with no oxygen and no clothes on, and now you can't handle, day-to-day shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, now that's me being an asshole, but that thought crosses my mind, like, why is it so difficult for some people to transfer or to transition? Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody handles it differently. I mean, I still struggle on a daily basis where I'm, leaving my job and going, what the fuck? This is stupid. I don't like, This 9 to 5 sucks. This kind of stuff sucks. You're almost throwing a grenade into your own life because you need the chaos.
Applebee's has rats.
Yeah, you need that. I don't want the routine. I don't want the mundane. I don't. And so it's some people struggle with it more than others, and I know I have a really hard time at times. Being normal, doing a normal job, so it's still hard even years later, So.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah. It is. I mean, it's, there will always be that time, there will always be that time. It'll never, until you shut your eyes for the last time, it'll never not be there, and I can remember asking, our dad, Marvin, asking him about it, and at a very young age, and he was like, it's just something that I did. It's not who I am. And he goes, and I loved every second of it, and it's always going to be there. He goes, we were driving down the road. I remember it clear. And I was probably, in grade school when I asked him this. And he was like, there's smells that bring me back. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think about it. He goes, but I don't think about it in a negative way. He goes, are there negative aspects about it? Of course. And everybody that's been through it knows, like, it's the funniest times ever. It's the worst times ever. It's the scariest times ever. And you always look back and think, like, at least I do, kind of like it was the best and worst times ever. Yeah. And it's always kind of running like a screensaver in the background, right? And and I don't know if that I'm sure that conversation kind of set the stage where he's like, that was what I was doing then, and that's who I was then, and this is who I am and what I'm doing now. He goes, I just kind of turned the page on it. Yeah. And I think some people have a hard time doing that. Letting go, no one can ever take it away. Right. I mean, no one can ever take it away, right? For forever, you will have done those things, right? Yeah. Good, right, wrong, and everything in between. But it's like I said. Well, I mean, one of the things that we're doing to transition into being around people and making those transitions and finding new purpose and finding new ways to, scratch that itch is we got 22 jumps right around the corner.
Yeah.
You're going to be a participant this year. Jennifer is going to be the first female participant this year. We're going to be doing base jumping and skydiving, and it's 22 Jumps is a 501c that specializes in helping people with post-traumatic stress, substance abuse, first responders, military, you name it, and basically therapy through. And therapy is kind of a shitty word, right? Like, but it's therapeutic, it's cathartic, through adventure sports. We're going to be out in Moab doing all that crazy shit, and having been through it last year, it's going to be the best week ever.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It just is. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. So shout out to the 22 Jumps guys, because we can't wait. I literally cannot wait. Well, is there anything else you want to shout out, or what do you got coming up other than 22 Jumps?
Not a whole lot. We talked about boating. Looking forward to doing that. Like I said, got that coming up. But as far as anything else, I'm just looking forward to 22 Jumps and going out there and get to do a couple things I haven't done yet. Like you said, check the box, and everybody looks for that camaraderie and that sense of belonging and whatnot. And I'm looking forward to getting around a group of guys to, kind of get that connection back and whatnot. So
it's super badass. And like I said, I can't say enough good things about them. It's going to be one incredible week. Yeah. It just is. I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like, in having participated through most of the events last year, I know, even had I just been standing there, you know what I mean? Like, they were very, very gracious in letting me, kind of be involved as a sponsor, Nomadic Research, sponsoring the participants with our, technical apparel and our gear. First and foremost, I wasn't having it. I was at least going to be a cog in the wheel. Like, I was going to help, I wasn't just going to stand there with my arms crossed. And luckily they were cool enough to, let me be involved. But even had I just been standing there, the environment, the camaraderie, the adrenaline, like all of those, the emotions, like it's a very, very emotional week, but in a good way, so I'm very, very excited for you to go. I'm very, very thankful and excited that I'm going to be there, along with a couple other family members. And hopefully that, there's no hopefully about it. It's going to light a spark, and it's kind of a peek into there's other ways to kind of peg that meter.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
If you want to scratch the itch, there's ways to do it, and you're going to do quite a few of them.
It's going to be great.
And nobody's shooting at you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully the chute opens.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do this again for sure. Let's thank everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody. Stay mobile, and we'll go get some lunch.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, bro.